Hillary Clinton's Wall Street speech transcripts have been released. At least excerpts of them have been released by WikiLeaks. And this includes her infamous Goldman Sachs speeches. So we're going to dive in here in a second. But before I actually do that, let me just say that there's one that is a fake. Now, this one, to my knowledge, was actually not released by WikiLeaks, but it was an old fake that right-wing blogs ran with, and then what people did is they started to send this one out again as well, saying it was attached to the rest of the actual leaks from WikiLeaks, when it's not true. So that one specifically is a back and forth between her and Lloyd Blankfein, where she talks about how Bernie supporters are a bucket of losers, and she says things like, you know, we all know for the longest time that Republicans were the party of Wall Street, but now that's changing. So she made comments like that. A friend of mine sent me that portion of it, and as I was reading through it, I was like, I don't know, man. It almost sounded too perfect to be real. Like, it is a caricature of what one would think she would say in that scenario. And it turns out it's true. It was a fake that was floating around the internet way before these actual leaks. And also, let me just say, if you're one of the idiots who tried to release that with the batch of the actual speech transcripts, you do realize you just fucked everything up, right? Because now what you did is you gave the media plausible deniability to say, we don't know if any of them are real. We don't know if any of them are real, so we're not going to discuss them in any way, shape, or form. So in an attempt for you to like pile on and be even extra angry at Hillary, you actually made it so that you might net help her, because now the media is much more cautious to discuss it, since some of the releases were fake, and they're trying to, you know, put that on top of the WikiLeaks leaks and say it's from the batch when it's not. So that was the one fake one. Now let me give you the real ones, and they're bad enough. You don't need the fucking fake one to get angry about this. So, let's start. Quote, you just have to sort of figure out how to, getting back to that word, balance, how to balance the public and private efforts that are necessary to be successful politically, and that's not just a comment about today. I mean, politics is like sausage being made. It is unsavory, and it always has been that way. But we usually end up where we need to be. But if everybody's watching, you know, all the backroom discussions and the deals, you know, then people get a little nervous, to say the least. So you need both a public and a private position. That's pretty damning. She's admitting, yeah, when I say stuff in public, it could be an outright lie. Why? You need a public position and need a private position. Hey, you got to get stuff done. The way the sausage is made is gross. You don't want the normal peasant seeing that. You know, us high-minded elites who run society, we get to know how messy the process is, but, I mean, to just make it simpler and make it easier and get people off our ass, you have to have a public position and a private position. And then she turns around and expects you to believe that she's against TPP, for example. She lobbied for it 45 times. This was back when she was Secretary of State, and she wasn't thinking about a future presidential run. And then the second she decided, okay, let me do that, all of a sudden, because of pressure from Bernie Sanders, and actually also some pressure from Donald Trump, she's like, oh, no, TPP, terrible, man, I hate it. It's not like I called it the gold standard and pushed for it 45 times. This is my new public position. Are you guys buying it? Ugh, man. That's Hillary Clinton 101, and that's what's so frustrating about it. Is, again, the thing that makes me want to bang my head against the wall when it comes to Hillary Clinton is that she thinks that we can't see this in her. Hillary, we have you pegged. We knew it from day one. Just like with other speech transcripts that leaked and meetings with donors, she has this idea of like, no, you silly millennials don't understand my philosophy. If you understood my philosophy, then you'd agree with me. No, we get your philosophy and we don't like it. You're far too centrist, you're far too corporatist, you're far too establishment, and then you sell it to us as if like, well, this is as far left as any reasonable person can go within our system. But that's not true. That's not true. So it's not that we don't get your philosophy. We understand it and we reject it. Because of stuff like this. You know, you need a public position and a private position. Okay, more. Now, it's important to recognize the vital role that the financial markets play in our economy and that so many of you are contributing to. To function effectively, those markets and the men and women who shape them have to command trust and confidence because we all rely on the market's transparency and integrity. So even if it may not be 100% true, if the perception is that somehow the game is rigged, that should be a problem for all of us, and we have to be willing to make that absolutely clear. Here we go again. More condescending, pedantic bullshit. Well, I mean, again, the peasants, they might not understand all this stuff, but they may wrongly have the feeling that this stuff is rigged, and we have to feign concern over that. Oh, I'm so sorry that you think it's rigged. You want to know why people think that, Hillary? Because it's rigged. Look at the way the system works. You and your politician buddies, Democratic and Republican, take money from corporations and rich donors. Then when you get in office and when you get in power, you turn around and do favors for them and snub your constituents. All right, more. Today there's more that can and should be done that really has to come from the industry itself and how we can strengthen our economy, create more jobs at a time where that's increasingly challenging. To get back to Teddy Roosevelt's Square Deal, there's nothing magic about regulations. Too much is bad, too little is bad. How do you get to the golden key? How do we figure out what works? And the people that know the industry better than anybody are the people who work in the industry. Okay, understand what she's saying here. She said it at two different points. It has to really come from the industry itself, and the people that know the industry better than anybody are the people who work in the industry. In other words, she's saying, Wall Street, smartest guys in the room. You guys understand the financial regulations and the financial system better than anybody, so what we need is you guys to do the dirty work and clean up the mess and regulate. But Hillary, they're the ones who corrupted the system. They're the ones who bought the politicians. They're the ones who maybe understand the rules, but they understand them because they're used to evading them. So, I mean, you want to talk about the fox guard in the hen house. She's saying that's her philosophy. She's telling a room full of rich pricks on Wall Street, you guys are the answer. You guys are the ones who know this better than anybody else. You guys are the ones who are going to get us out of trouble when we're in trouble. You guys are the ones who are the experts on regulation. But you have it exactly backwards. That's the worst possible thing you can say. She doesn't get it. I mean, this is neoliberalism 101. All right, more. Part of the problem with the political situation, too, is that there's such a bias against people who have led successful and or complicated lives. You know, the divestment of assets, the stripping of all kinds of positions, the sale of stocks, it just becomes very onerous and unnecessary. Oh, here we go. So now she's going with the classic Republican line, and a stupid line even among Republicans. The idea of bigotry against the rich. Oh my God, the peasants are so bigoted against us rich people. She says, there's a bias against people who have led successful and or complicated lives. And then she explains, because, I mean, come on, when we get certain positions, we got to divest assets and we got to, sell stocks and all this stuff. You don't understand why you have to do that if you're in a high position of authority in government. You don't get it. You don't understand that there's massive, massive conflicts of interest for the president, for example, to have a tremendous amount of money in a certain stock. I mean, they have so much power, they can obviously do favors for people they're in bed with financially. And she's making it seem like I'm such a victim for having to follow ethics rules. Now you see the fucking mindset, how the Clintons have raised over $3 billion from special interests in their careers. Now you see it. Now you see the hubris and the mindset that makes Hillary Clinton go around accepting over $600,000 in speeches for Goldman Sachs, accepting millions of dollars in speeches for all different institutions. Because they view it as, I'm entitled. What are you talking about? I mean, if you don't like me getting massively rich and snubbing constituents and doing favors for special interests, well, then you just have a bias against successful people. And then she's going to turn around and pretend to care about the little guy. You're doing it right now. This shows you don't care about the little guy when you don't even understand the rationale behind basic ethics rules. Rules that try to prevent conflicts of interest. And the fact that you view those as, just a hurdle I gotta jump over, as opposed to a very fundamental cornerstone of democracy that keeps the integrity of the democracy in place. All right, let me give you a few more here on Social Security. Quote, Simpson-Bowles put forth the right framework. Namely, we have to restrain spending, we have to have adequate revenues, and we have to incentivize growth. It's a three-part formula, and they reached an agreement. But what is very hard to do is to take that agreement if you don't believe that you're going to be able to move the other side. All right, so for those of you who don't know, Simpson-Bowles was a right-wing plan and a right-wing meeting where they came up with a framework by which we can gut Social Security and Medicare. So, oh my God, the debt is so bad. Debt. Well, first of all, obviously, we only have to cut shit for you. I mean, come on, military spending, pork barrel spending, corporate welfare. Grandfather that in, bitch. We're not cutting that. But grandma's got to take a pay cut. So what are we going to do? Gut Social Security, gut Medicare, gut Medicaid. And they set up a framework by which they do that. And they pose it as, we're just being prudent and fiscally responsible, and we're just trying to save Social Security for the next generation. So they frame it in flowery terms of like, we have to do it, and we're being so kind by saving it for the next generation, when really they're coming to screw you. Because remember, it's called an entitlement program because you're entitled to it because you paid into it, so you're getting back what you paid in. But they want to say, no, okay, everybody who paid in all these years, maybe we just don't give it back to you later on. Or maybe we give you back much less. And we'll frame it as we're helping you as we do that. And what does Hillary say? Rock and roll. Yeah, no, I like that. I love that. That's a philosophy I can get behind when it comes to reforming Social Security. Cutting it. Doing the grand bargain. This is what Obama tried to do, and the Republicans rejected it. So we were actually only saved by Republican arrogance and hubris because there are some people who said, no, that's not enough cuts. We want to go further. So they blocked it because they wanted more cuts. Hillary Clinton saying, I'll propose the same deal as Obama. Yeah, let's cut Social Security and Medicare. So again, we're going to have to rely on, hopefully, insane Republicans saying, no, I'm not going to sign on to this because I want more cuts. I mean, these are the two parties. Nobody's saying, hey, let's actually keep Social Security the same or expand it. I mean, Bernie Sanders argued that. But Hillary Clinton, you can see behind closed doors, she's willing to make a deal. And again, she says the problem is getting the other side to sign on to it. So in other words, the problem is the Republicans blocking it because they want to go further. But yes, I agree, let's cut Social Security. All right, and finally, on Keystone and trade, she said, quote, so I think that Keystone is a contentious issue, and of course it is important, on both sides of the border for different and sometimes opposing reasons. But that is not our relationship. And I think our relationship will get deeper and stronger and put us in a position to really be global leaders in energy and climate change if we worked more closely together. My dream is a hemispheric common market with open trade and open borders. Sometime in the future with energy that is as green and sustainable as we can get it. I think we have to have a concerted plan to increase trade already under the current circumstances, and we have to resist protectionism, other kinds of barriers to market access and to trade. And I would like to see this get much more attention and be not just a policy for a year under President X or President Y, but a consistent one. Well, there you have it. So behind closed doors, she's for the Keystone XL pipeline, and behind closed doors, she says, "Look, my dream is a open marketplace in our hemisphere, and open trade, open borders, and we have to resist protectionism." So all the I'm against TPP shit is utter bullshit. It's utter bullshit. I told you. You know what she's going to do when she gets in there? She goes, "Oh, look, I was against TPP. Of course I was against it. I told you guys I was against it. We changed 2 or 3 provisions, so now it's not the same deal. So it's better now. Now I'm in favor of it." That's what she'll do. And she'll cover her ass by saying, it's not the same deal. I don't know what you're talking about. I changed the deal. I'm not against all trade. I guess you're against all trade because you don't like this new version of TPP. It's unbelievable, man. And it shows they don't get it. You want to know why? Because in the circle she runs in, all of her rich buddies want to do more outsourcing deals, free trade. Because those are all the people giving her money and she's doing their bidding. And they tell her, it's lovely, I'm so much richer than I was before because I get to outsource my jobs and pay people, 18 cents an hour instead of paying them a living wage here in the U.S. And she's disconnected from the struggling working class who did lose their job over these deals when her husband signed NAFTA, for example, and she supported it. So, yet again, everything Bernie Sanders said about Hillary Clinton, everything we knew about Hillary Clinton based on her record is true. It's true. It's 100% true. And you know because this is what she says behind closed doors. Behind closed doors, she couldn't let the flag fly higher. And there's another part where we didn't get to it, but basically what she says is, we need two pragmatic, moderate, centrist parties. In other words, hey man, look, I'm a hawkish, centrist, corporatist. I am the establishment. She lets that flag fly behind closed doors, man. That's what it is. And now you know it. And the only thing that I saw in the leaks that was a positive development is at one point she just flat out argues in favor of single-payer healthcare. I was floored by it. But what she says is, look, it's the best systems. They're just the best systems. So at least she can acknowledge the evidence that it's true that those are the best systems. But as we learned from the speeches to donors that we discussed last week, released by The Intercept, we learned that she basically also believes it's not going to happen, we can't do it because we can't get it through, so let's kind of like give up on that. Points for realizing it's the best system, no points for saying I'm not going to fight for it. So overall, this is disastrous, and this shows you Hillary Clinton's true colors, and it's exactly what you thought they were all along.